In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Sadid Hasan. Dr. Hasan is a leader in the artificial intelligence and machine learning domain, playing a pivotal role in Microsoft's AI Development Acceleration Program, or MAIDAP. Dr. Hasan has a vast range of knowledge acquired from his time living in Bangladesh, Canada, and Massachusetts, along with his time working for Philips and CVS Health, among many other experiences. As you'll come to find out in this conversation, Dr. Hasan speaks from a place of kindness, humility, and passion when thinking about a grand symbiosis between humanity and artificial intelligence. Thank you for tuning into the Common Human Podcast. Seek knowledge and wisdom, always.
My perspective is one thing based upon my research done regarding your professional and educational life, but by you being yourself, how would you describe Dr. Sadid Hasan?
Yeah, that's a, I guess, very interesting question. So I would say, the fact that I got very interested with your podcast is, essentially the title of your podcast. So I recognize and consider myself a common human. So I got very intrigued by the title of your podcast. So yeah, so that could be very generic definition, or how do I see myself, very passionate about AI and machine learning. I've been studying this for a long time, so that's my bread and butter, and always thinking about it, how to improve our human's life with better computing, better AI models and things like that. So so that can be also, in a nutshell, how to help others doing what they can best.
Regarding your educational experience, correct me if I'm wrong, you were educated in Bangladesh as a top-ranking student from third grade up until graduate school, attaining your Master's of Science in Computer Science. What was this educational experience like? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fascinating journey of learning new things and growing over the years, and it's true, as you pointed out. So I speak multiple languages, originally from Bangladesh. So people are very nice and kind there, and so that I brought in my nature and in my DNA. So that helped a lot to learn from the culture, so of course the education system back then when I was in Bangladesh was in our the preschool and elementary, middle, high school, all those were in Bengali language. So that was very, very good for me, at least to learn the language, as well as learn everything, science, arts, all history, geography, all the background foundational knowledge in my own language, and then when I transitioned to grad school, and also before grad school, also in undergrad, everything transitioned to English, and also so that was kind of one transition. But before that, of course, we were learning both languages at the same time. So that also was one motivation for me for being in this journey of natural language understanding, which is my background in my graduate school and my PhD and postdoc, and have been in this field for a long time now, after my academic career and also in the industry, because I like to think that the whole world is running on communications, right? Because that's what we are here for in the world. So I like to also read religion, philosophy, and all those different topics. I'm very much interested about those connections between different subjects, astrophysics, physics, chemistry, biology, neuroscience, how brain works. So all these gives me a connection of those different concepts and topics, and that tells me that that we are here in this world to to make things better for each other. And also it's a temporary world, right? So we don't stay here for a long time, but we can make tremendous impact, time here, so that we can make life easier for people who are coming next, right? We don't know who is coming to the world, right? So who will be born in 2100 and will not be there then, but they would be hopefully benefited from the things that we do now to make things easy for them. So all that just to say is that for that we need to communicate better, we need to work together, because nobody can progress, right? So the whole world, if you go back to history, everything was a collective effort, right? So people came up with ideas, but those ideas couldn't be implemented without coordinated effort, team effort, building products, and that is essentially a product of communication between each other, how people collaborate, right? So that's the essence of also the things that we do in the industry, in academia. Like, for example, if you are in grad school, you have to pass your PhD thesis or master's thesis. I have to publish a lot. You need to communicate to the research community, so they can also approve and review and see what you have done to push the state of the art in technology. So this is all part of this communicating effort, right? So that was actually helpful for me, because being in a multiple language speaker, so that was also my motivation to kind of study more about natural language understanding, machine learning, AI, computers, computing. Those all can benefit to scale up these technologies that we use for human-to-human communication. And now you see, with the advent of generative AI models, foundational models, we need to also communicate with machines in a way that is more effective, right? So that the machines can understand what we want for us to be more productive. So it's also, so yeah, I hope that makes sense to you. It's a long answer, but it's just to say that my journey of education actually helped shape my career, and I was benefited from those experiences.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's an incredible amount to unpack there, and what you said in regards to human beings on this earth. Although we are mortal, we have an opportunity to make an impact within our time on earth, and then set up and basically raise the bar to set up greatness for other individuals to come. And so through artificial intelligence, through neuroscience, through these particular fields of study and these understandings, we can do that. We can make that impact within humanity, within our current world and on Earth. And so I want to reach and get to those broader points as well, because those are incredible. But just in regards for my understanding and the audience's understanding, so you presumably got a second Master's of Science degree and your PhD degree at University of Lethbridge, correct?
Yeah.
Understood. So how was that experience transitioning? You touched on this a little bit, just clarifying, going from Bangladesh to Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can add more to that. So, and again, it was a fascinating journey, and to highlight one more thing of my life, one regret of my life also, because when you actually, transition through different parts of the world, right, to learn new things, you also have to sacrifice many other things, right? So I was actually, within Bangladesh also, when I was there, I was studying in a boarding school, so a very early young age of my life. So when I was like about 10 years old, I started my education in a boarding school in Bangladesh. So that was one impactful event in my life to be distant from my family members, my mom, my dad, and my younger brother. So that was one thing that impacted a lot. And then but still I was able to see them occasionally, every few months and things like that. They used to visit me. But then the ultimate transition happened when I went for my graduation, grad school and PhD in Canada. So that was being distant also from your root and from your homeland. So that was also a great learning opportunity and learning, for me and the experience. But when I was in Canada, so it was also, like I mentioned, it's transformational impact. I learned so many new things. My professors, my supervisors, they were so supportive to bring me up to speed. It's a new country, new language, new culture. But yeah, I have a soft corner for Canadians, and because they're so supportive, and especially I was in Alberta, so it's one of the coldest place on earth. So that was also another great experience that now after coming from Canada to US, I don't feel, I'm in Boston now, so I don't feel that cold. So I'm trained on the coldest of the temperatures.
Reinforced by the Canada weather.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, that takes a lot of gut and risk, and I commend you for making those several transitions to Bangladesh, to Canada, to now competitive Boston, Massachusetts. So that's absolutely incredible. So in regards to your expertise, you've climbed up the ranks at companies such as Philips Health technology conglomerate, CVS Health, and Microsoft, among others, becoming a senior scientist, executive of artificial intelligence, and the AI lead, respectively. You've been a part of several global hackathons out at MIT, Microsoft, winning Microsoft with a project team in 2022 and 2023. So regarding Philips and CVS, what led you to work within this intersection between health and technology?
Yeah, so, and again, I can speak at length on this topic. So, but it's, looking back and while I was making those transitions, so it's all about impact, right? So as I mentioned at the beginning, I always wanted to, learn, grow, and at the same time share what I can share, because of course nobody can claim that they know everything. I cannot be an expert in all topics and subjects, so that was always my motivation, that whatever I know, I should be able to apply them somewhere where people can get more benefit, right? So that was like, when I finished my PhD and a short postdoc, I was actually looking for transitioning to the industry, and specifically for that reason, because I wanted to make impact into the industry where I can build products that are more useful. People can use them, and they can actually get benefited. Because I had many offers from various academic institutions to carry on longer postdocs and get additional experience from the academia, but people choose that, so I had to choose industry because of that impact reason. And at that point, and even now, while I think about where can I make the most impact in terms of applications of AI and machine learning, so you'll see that healthcare is quite a lot behind than any other industries. Like, if you think about financial industry, government, or manufacturing industry, education industry. So healthcare is far behind. Why? Because people trust the human connection more than machines, right? Because it's all about our health. So adoption of AI is quite difficult in healthcare still nowadays, although there's many things have been changed in the last decade. And I was also trying to also change that so people can be convinced on AI models and the performance. And there was also that dilemma between, while you have a lot, very strong performant AI model, but still it can make mistakes, right? So then who is going to be responsible for those mistakes? Is it the human who is running those AI models, or the people who build that model, or is it there is nobody will take responsibility for that? So that is a great point of concern in healthcare even nowadays. And also the privacy aspects of it, the data, because you need lots of data to train AI models. So all that made me think that, okay, let me start my career in the healthcare industry, because it's a lot more challenging, and that's where I can make the most impact, especially in early of my career. So my PhD was not in healthcare. My PhD, as I mentioned, was in core machine learning and natural language understanding. So it was about data, like textual data, and it was about summarization. So specifically complex question answering, which I solved using summarization systems. I proposed various algorithms to answer complex questions.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also kind of my foundation in core technology. So and then when I transitioned to healthcare, specifically I was hired in Philips as the third member of the Philips AI lab at that time. So and if you see my career, I was also like when I joined CVS Health, I was tasked to build a new team for the healthcare business. We used to call it like AI care plan team. So, and even now in Microsoft, I'm part of a groundbreaking AI acceleration program. So my entire career is all about taking new challenges and building new things from scratch. So that is always I'm passionate about. So in healthcare, I spent about a decade in Philips and CVS Health. So in Philips, I was tasked with, so I directly applied many of the things that I developed during my PhD, like complex question answering problem. And of course, because the one complex question in healthcare is, you go to the doctor as a patient and your question is, what happened to me? Tell me. That's the most complex question, right? So tell me what's my diagnosis. So I tried to build various clinical diagnosis inference systems, clinical trial matching systems, won many competitions, visual question answering systems. I used to run a competition also as part of ImageClave. So various multimodal data we used and developed clinical diagnostic inference and decision-making systems that can help clinicians to understand what's the diagnosis for this patient, what should be the treatment, and also figuring out the root cause of those diagnoses through drug discovery and drug matching through clinical trial process. Once I was in Philips, and again, feel free to stop me because it's a long
Sure.
answer. So
Sure.
But maybe I'll stop when I finish Philips and CVS Health. So while I was in Philips, I was transitioned to senior scientist as the technical lead. While I was looking for a transition for a more leadership role, because while I was in Philips in my last year, I realized, and even like through this process, while I was transitioning into my different career levels, one thing I realized is, as I mentioned, for AI adoption in healthcare, you need bold decisions. You need bold decisions in the leadership level, right? Who can really bring together the clinicians, the customers, meaning hospital administrators, as well as the developers of the solutions, research, business. There are so many different stakeholders, and you need to be in the forefront of decision making to set out the strategy for your team and for your company, as well as for the people who is gonna use those AI models. So at my level, I was not able to do that while I was not in a leadership role. So I thought maybe I can make more impact if I can be in a leadership role based on my AI background, as well as the background in healthcare experience. Because I was able to grasp the challenges of healthcare by that time. So that led me to the transition of the CVS Health leadership role, where I was tasked with set up the strategy, short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategy for the healthcare business. How can we develop healthcare AI solutions from scratch? Because CVS Health at that time was in the process of acquiring Aetna. So there was a merger happened, the Aetna Health Insurance. So Aetna is a big health insurance company. So through that process, they captured lots of data, right? So it's the holy grail of all information that is buried in those data across the healthcare continuum, right? So basically, they had insurance data, pharmacy data, hospital data. So patients' entire healthcare journey and history was available for us to do research and build AI models. And of course, we are not able to see all those data, so it's all based on their consent, and it was all de-identified. So as a developer, just to clarify that, because as a developer we don't see the who is who, we just treat them as data to build AI models. So that was the transition in my healthcare journey, and all about how can I make more impact and progress faster, so that these models and the solutions can be used by everyone sooner than later. So like if there is a mistake of the AI model, it's very costly in healthcare, right? So that means it is more challenging, right? So the data is challenging because of course you cannot get all the data, right? So when patients go or enroll into hospitals, like in emergency rooms, or I don't know, in ICUs, or even for daily routine checkups, or ambulatory care or outpatient. So in any of those areas, wherever we if we just go to Walmart or CVS Health pharmacies and buy some over-the-counter medication, so all of those produces lots of data, right? So all those encounters or interactions with the patient and the healthcare system produces lots of data, because we track those journey, right? Somehow all those are digitized, but then again, not everyone gives consent to use those data, right? So people also give consent that okay, this data can be used for research and things like that. So there is a lengthy process and lots of process involved to get the data de-identified, so that it can be used for building AI models and things like that. So privacy concerns. Okay, so all that to say is like to point out that there is privacy concern, there is trust of the AI models. So responsible AI best practices and adoption is much more challenging in healthcare even now, and even it was more when I started. So that was one thing that was intriguing to me, because so I always think of myself as like, where can I be more useful, right? Where people would need me rather than I need them. Or so that is always in my decision making process. So I thought healthcare needs people like me to demystify, to accelerate the process of building more AI driven solutions that can help clinicians, because my goal is oftentimes even now people in healthcare, like clinicians or even any other people, like whoever they using AI models or solutions, they think about that, okay, is AI going to replace us, right? So are we being replaced by AI, or so we always try to clarify that AI models are for us to improve our productivity, right? So it's an augmented solution, right? So it's a co-pilot, for example, in Microsoft we are building right now. So we humans, clinicians are all in charge, right? But it's just the AI models that can have a second look on the data or the diagnosis, and maybe able to identify something that is being otherwise missed by the clinicians. Because I did some research also at my first few years in Philips, and even there are lots of researchers working on healthcare now, so that's a good thing. So that research showed that many people actually die in healthcare every year just because of documentation errors. Okay, so this can be resolved very easily. So people just make because everyone is so busy, right? So there's so many people and it's overloaded, right? The hospitals in special times or periods, there is like overloaded emergency rooms. So it's very easy to make mistakes in documenting the scenarios and what patients are going through. So that was one study done in Arkansas that showed like many people actually die based on documentation errors. So which can be easily resolved using an AI model that can check all those connections between the data and figure out that, okay, you know what, this paragraph doesn't make sense because what's earlier mentioned, and that is also also based on some description of radiology reports, because what we saw in radiologists or clinicians, based on the encounters, patient encounters, they normally, at that time used to copy paste, right, their summary of the visit. Okay, so while during this copy paste, right, so they used to copy paste the entire thing from last visit, and then they're modifying a little bit of the portion to say, okay, everything is good, but in this visit, this is what they saw new, something new. So all these errors are also coming from those copy paste, which could be easily resolved, because AI models can look at the context from the beginning, and they can figure out that, okay, across the timeline something is not making sense. Yeah.
So AI, just regarding that point you just made, you're basically saying this AI, when it absorbs this data set, it can decipher context. And so
Yeah.
how does, not to go maybe too much in the weeds regarding this, but maybe on a surface level, how does that work in regards to figuring out that context and then creating a palpable output for a human to understand?
Yeah, sure. I mean, during that time while we were doing this study, me and my team in the AI lab in Philips Research, we proposed different types of approaches to solve this problem. And again, these are all matter of experiments. So one solution we proposed was what we call in the field of natural language understanding, it's called natural language inference. Okay, so it's and a hypothesis, right? So basically, you can think of two pairs of text. The problem is, can a machine, or even as a human, right? So think about as a human, if I give you two pairs of two paragraphs, and I ask you that, do you think these two paragraphs are entailed? So the first paragraph, is it entailing the second paragraph? Meaning, so yeah, maybe I'll give you a simple example. So if I say that I'm waiting at a restaurant. Okay, let's say it's I don't know. Let's say Burger King. I want to eat a burger. I'm waiting at a Burger King. So that's one sentence. And the other sentence is, I'm waiting to eat a burger. Okay. So now the question is, is me waiting at Burger King entail that I'm actually waiting to eat a burger or not? Right? So answer could be, maybe not, right? Why? Because I may be waiting for someone else, right? Or maybe I'm not waiting to eat a burger, I'm waiting to eat some fries, right? So it's not fully entailed. Okay, so one can say it's a neutral, two statements are neutral, very close, but it's not fully entailed, and also it's not contradictory. Okay, so and there could be contradictory examples like, I don't know, I'm waiting at a Burger King, and if the following sentence is, I'm looking for a bus or something, I don't know. So it completely doesn't make sense, right? So it's actually, fully contradictory. So we built a system to recognize that given texts, can we build, so we build actually a bidirectional dependent reading model. So we call it DR by DR LSTM. So bidirectional dependent reading model using LSTM. So that actually looks at both parts of the text. As a human, what we do, right? So we actually read the first sentence and the second sentence, and again read the first sentence and second sentence, right? If these are complex sentences, and then we can make connections and think deeply that if they are entailed or not. The same thing, we developed an AI model using long short-term memory network to exactly mimic that, and this model can tell, given two paragraphs, if they are making sense or contradictory, right? So using the healthcare data or clinical text, we showed that, okay, this is able to So we actually were on top of the leaderboard in Stanford National Language Inference Benchmark during the phase of 2018. So this was to show, like as I mentioned, if the clinician while doing copy paste or I don't know, somehow there is a mistake, right, that doesn't make sense to the previous paragraph, right? So the system can easily catch that, there is a contradictory information present in the first, and many of those mistakes are not, just to clarify, those mistakes or copy paste errors are not so significant, or it's just simple minor typos, right? So it's like, so think about, it's just negation. So people in clinicians, in radiologists, so for example, if you do an X-ray, let's say you have a fracture in your shoulder, right? And so if you do an X-ray, the radiologist is supposed to say, is there a fracture or not, right? So while doing copy paste or typing, there might be a silly mistake saying that there is no fracture, right? And the no might be missing, right? Okay. So yeah.
So just so I understand, and maybe to clarify to those listening, regarding it being entailed, that is productive for the system when comparing, I'm at a Burger King and I'm waiting for a burger. That is something you want the machine to detect. I mean, you want the machine to detect entailed information, but also the contradictory, such as I'm at a Burger King and I'm waiting for a bus. Completely different. And the machine, you want the machine to negate those, to get those out.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Understood.
Yep.
Understood. Perfect. So regarding CVS, you mentioned bold decisions, and you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, doing things within the short term, midterm, and long term. So could you go into more detail regarding your experience at CVS and how that also aligns with the healthcare industry?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So, and like I said, so this team, while I joined CVS Health, it was I was tasked to build it from scratch. So I was given this task of setting up the strategy for how we can use deep learning and AI advanced AI models to demystify or leverage the data that we have, right? In terms of, because there's lots of data, right? So how can you really get the real information, the useful information out from the data is through building AI models and large AI models. So so it was a great experience to come up with those strategy, and again, when we join an industry or a company, right? So these are and especially the companies I have been working on with so far, these are profitable companies, right? So you really need to come up with strategy that can benefit people, right? So we can build systems that can benefit people. At the same time, we can also get return on investment. So the ROI, right? So that we call in industry. So we need to justify that how many people we need. So resource, so how many scientists or engineers I need to build these AI systems, and in return, how many people can actually leverage these solutions, and then what would be the ultimate impact for them. So and at that in CVS Health and in many healthcare organizations like CVS Health, we also had the concept of value-based care. So which is like if we can even prevent people from going to the hospitals, right? So that's also value add, right? So it's not also about money. It's because also it's that's also connected to somehow in some sort of revenue dollars, because so think about it, can we healthcare cost, right? So if you think about healthcare is in US is very costly, right? In other countries in Europe, or even while I was in Canada, right? So I saw the benefit of this. I was getting healthcare completely for free, right? Even as a student visa. So but in healthcare in US you have so it's very costly. So how can we actually prevent or reduce healthcare cost. Okay, so that's also one of the goal that I had while I was proposing various AI models to show that, okay, if we build this AI model, it can generate revenue, that many dollars, or at the same time it can also reduce healthcare cost by that amount. And how can we reduce cost is like these AI models can actually predict the diagnosis in advance. So one example I can give. So at that time we built a smart care recommendation system, which used to predict that if a patient or the people who were insured through Aetna insurance as part of CVS Health. So basically they are our members, so insurance members. We used to predict if they would be going to emergency rooms or ICUs in the next 6 months, okay, based on their past health history. So our AI models could predict that. So if we could predict that, saying that, okay, this member would be in hospital, ICU in the next 6 months if they don't do this. So we also predicted some actions, right? So we said this patient should immediately go to the doctor to do some tests, take this kind of medicines or treatments if they want to avoid ending up in ICU or emergency rooms in the next 6 months. Okay, so that's how we designed and developed a system. But yeah, I just wanted to give that example because, so coming back to the question, so many of those systems like this, what we built, we couldn't, so it needs time, right, to build those systems. You have to, digest lots of data. You have to iterate because you cannot really, once you build a system, you really need to have a testing loop with clinicians. They should be able to evaluate the system and, the quality and accuracy of the recommendations. So it takes time, right? So that's why I had to propose short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategy that would say that in short-term, meaning that within 3-4 months, we should be able to get benefit, like we should be able to create some, tangible solutions for some, tangible small problems that could bring us this much revenue in short-term. Mid-term is like, 6 months to 1 year, and long-term is like, multi-year project that I could propose. That those are those are going to give us largest revenue in the long run, but at the beginning that would have some initiation cost, right? So the cost breakdown and that would be even maybe in the next few years, even though those are not realized right now. So those were some of the strategy that I had to set to convince the funding for our projects.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you bringing clarification on those particular areas. And when speaking of, in the context of CVS Health and the work that you were doing, would you say, just maybe reiterating basically what you just said, these AI models in particular, are they understanding, obviously, the information you're giving them regarding symptoms and things of that nature? These models are predictive in regard to them understanding where the patient might be in the future. Did you find that to be the case? And obviously, it's a great impact on the patient, but just from your perspective, that's got to feel good. And so just regarding that impact and just honing in on that point, just basically my question maybe would just be, did you see the patients having true positivity with particularly, the implementation of artificial intelligence and things of that nature?
Yeah, definitely. So, and again, the example that I gave you, so it's also about like at what point the users or patients are gonna use. So, are they actually using our solution or not? So, some of the solutions that we proposed, as I mentioned before, it was for the clinicians. Okay, so the users are actually clinicians, not the patients, right? Okay. So clinicians are in the loop. So the diagnosis inference system, this smart care recommendation system, even the natural language inference system. So many of them are really used by the clinicians. So many of our customers and users are clinicians, where like once the models are predicting that for each of these members this is the case, right, this should be taken, so the clinicians are evaluating them for the accuracy before they really connect with the
patient.
actual patients to to talk through that, okay, this is what needs to be done. So that is how we design the system in a way that the patients are getting the most benefit and the results are accurate. So throughout that testing, we had got lots of feedback from the clinicians, and we improved the system based on those feedback. Of course, it's not 100% correct at the earliest stage of the system, so those feedbacks were used to improve the system as well. But it's true that some of the solutions were also later on perceived to be used by direct patients as well. How? Through apps. Okay, so and even like right now you can also see them, right, using ChatGPT or Copilot. So so people can, even before going to the doctor, they can have they can just talk to some conversational agent, and they could really understand what's going on based on those signs and symptoms, so they can get an idea. But of course, in all those AI models and conversational agents, everywhere you will see that even though they will suggest some ideas that this might be wrong based on those signs or symptoms, but they always tell you that you must go to the doctor, because otherwise you're not going to get any medication, right? So you really need to visit the doctor or hospital to get a confirmed recommendation or next steps.
Sure. Yeah, maybe my question was ill-posed. Obviously, like you mentioned, the clinicians are utilizing this AI model that you guys created, but more so wanting to understand that the patients are having a positive experience from gaining traction on their particular situation, or at least understanding it better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and again, like I said, so that's also based on how the AI models are adopted in those hospital scenarios and systems, right? So because many of those systems are also these are all tools, right? So you can think of these are additional tools to help clinicians to to do better and not to miss anything inadvertently. So but it's so the question I'm getting at based on what you asked is like the direct benefit, right? So we had those measures also, that based on the AI based recommendations, clinicians thought that okay, the AI is actually suggesting good recommendations, and the patients are actually adhering to those recommendations. So based on that, we also did some evaluation that showed that patients are getting benefited based on AI based recommendations, right? So those evaluation and study we also did, and there was also some study done like, okay, if the AI couldn't recommend this, there's no other way that clinicians could actually see this because the model is digesting lots of data from the past to predict these kind of things.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Yep.
So I want to touch on your time at Microsoft. The last little bit we have here, touch on your time at Microsoft, and then broader questions regarding AI in particular. So regarding your time at Microsoft, what does a day look like when running MAIDAP? Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Microsoft Advanced Development Accelerated Program.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it's like I said, it's a fascinating team that I'm part of, like AI Development and Acceleration Program. So it's in Cambridge as part of the New England Research and Development Center, and this is a groundbreaking program that we started in 2018, and it was a kind of a like technology industry pioneer. And many other industries, like many of the other technology companies, also mimicked this program later on. So the main goal of this program is to bring in new graduates from school and grow them and train them through building various AI products. So so this is a rotational program. So these graduates, they join MAIDAP. So I'm part of the leadership team of this program. So they are able to work with various product teams, and during this, so they stay with us for 2 years. So that means they can do 4 rotations, 6 months rotation with this product. So they work with one product, then they move on to the next product. The main goal here is that to train them through the real world product building experience. So they are bringing in their AI experience, which is, we had the top talent from school who are very much, in forefront of AI. Large language model right now is one of our focus. So they're expert in machine learning, and they bring in that expertise. And the product teams that we work with, they have the product knowledge, right? Because they have been working on this product for a long time. So many of those flagship products that you know of, right? So, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, Outlook. So all of them. So we work with many of those teams to infuse AI into those products so that, we can, improve our users' experience. But the broader goal of this program is that throughout this process, we get these graduates, these AI talent, the people who are part of MAIDAP, we give them the opportunity to work with these various teams so they can figure out that which team or which product they want to work on more. So which one they are more interested, right? Because they're getting this opportunity for working with at least 4 product teams, if not more. Because we also do those hackathons, as you mentioned, right? Like that is also strongly encouraged within us. So we also collaborate not only through our projects, these core projects, but also through various hackathons and very many other events. So throughout this process, they are able to find their perfect match, which product they want to join. So after 2 years is done, they basically join one of those product teams as the core developer of that team. So that's kind of how our vision is to transform the entire company into AI first company. So kind of having the AI talent coming in through their graduate school, and that way we can be in the forefront of AI technology.
Sure, absolutely. I love these particular points because it's coming full circle to your initial points regarding individuals making an impact, but you guys are now bringing in these soon-to-be AI leaders and providing them obviously the state-of-the-art product and things of that nature, and then they can find through exposure to these particular products which one they like more, and obviously optimize their work regarding those different products. So that's absolutely so more broadly in regards to AI, and as you mentioned as well regarding just inevitable fears and looms of being replaced by AI, although you also mentioned that AI is for productivity, and as you mentioned as well, you're obviously for humanity and its prosperity. So regarding that, how, as a leader of AI in the forefront of this particular industry, how do us humans find a medium between AI, but also keeping in mind being a proponent of human prosperity and being able to facilitate this very powerful technology in a way that is truly beneficial for humanity and simply that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting question, and I get asked quite a lot, and all of us
Sure.
who is in the AI field, right? So we have to answer this question quite a lot. So my perspective, as I mentioned before, is it's not about replacing humans or replacing jobs or things like that. It's about the philosophy here is that AI plus humans is better in a way for solving our day-to-day problems, and anything that we want help with, or any of our work or creativity is in a way that we perceive that may be somewhat better than humans working on it alone. Why? Because if you think about it, humans, we have lots of limitations, right? And AI models, they also have their limitation, right? So nobody can say, so that's the discussion about artificial general intelligence and I don't know, the discussion about singularity and all those, which I don't really buy into those concepts uh, because nobody can say that they can build an AI model that would be 100% accurate in all sense or in all tasks, right? And there are some efforts going on into that area, but my personal opinion in that is like we can get better day by day, but it's all about personalization, right? So for example, I can use some tool right now and I think that is helpful to me right now, but in the future I may not like that tool at all, right? So because as a human we are also evolving, we are learning new things, right? We and that's the case. Like if you see the history, right? When just simple examples like people invented bicycle, right? And there is invention of cars, now invention of faster cars, now invention of self-driving cars, now flying cars, okay, and we also build aeroplane, right? So if you see the trend of technology throughout the history, people are always kind of getting they get used to the old technology, right? And then when new technology comes on board, they're in a resistance mode that I don't like it, maybe it's gonna disrupt my life. They're not open to change. But if you see the next generation, they are very open, right? Because they are learning those things from scratch, and gradually people are adopting those new technologies over and over again, and they're not really being afraid of it. So the same thing, right? So whenever there is new AI models or new technology is coming up, there to be improvement, right? So it's always so you cannot, nobody can say that we are done, right? So so let's say tomorrow, let's say there is a new version of GPT, or I don't know, there is some new version. But can anyone say that we are done? Nobody can say, right? So research is still gonna go. There's so many unsolved problems, open problems, right? So research would go on, new technology would come and evolve, and all for to help augment humans and prosperity, like how we can get better day by day in our tasks. But it's true that everything has their pros and cons, right? So if you think about social media, when it came, there was nobody can say everything has only good side, right? So, and there is no risk or downside of it.
Sure.
So the goal here is for us all of us, like I said at the beginning, to work together and mitigate those risks. Okay, so can we see if the benefits are greater than the risks? So that's the goal, right? So how can we be more responsible as a human, right? Many of this data that you can think of AI models are built on the human generated data, right? Whatever we write in social media or in the web, I don't know, the blogs, anything, Wikipedia, all these data are collected to train these AI models, right? Now, so that's like, so as a human, we need to also produce better data, right? So that means we need to be better humans first to be able to produce better data, to be able to produce better AI models. So it's a circle, right? So it's a circle, and then and throughout this process, you will see, like I said, like for the example, like how can you mitigate the risk in going back to the example of cars, right? So people saw that there is accidents, right? So if you cannot drive properly, or you get distracted, there might be accidents. But how can you mitigate the risk from the accident? So they injected the seat belts, right? So everything that you see, those safety measures. Now self-driving cars is also another tool into this. So all is to say that how can we use all this technology as a tool, right? So it's not for us to, because humans are still in control, right? And we will be the ones to decide how we can use these tools for our own benefits.
Sure. Yeah, so what I'm truly gathering from you is that inevitably artificial intelligence, just like social media, just like Uber or different particular apps within different industries, we are going to not be complacent within what we currently have. We are going to continue to advance, but do so in a way that we have humanity in the forefront of our brain and our knowledge in regards to navigating these fields and obviously advancing, but inevitably keeping humans, like I said, at the forefront. So that's great to hear, especially from one of the AI leaders. But I really appreciate one, your time, but also your input in regards to artificial intelligence in your life in general.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to be on this show, and thank you for asking those intriguing questions.